children. In 32 years, I never had less than 25 children. I think you need to look at what you've got and consolidate more so you've got larger groups of children. And instead of having 4 fourth grades, have 3 fourth grades.
What we're doing is the classes are not, I mean, at the primary levels, we have different numbers than the secondary, but one of the things that I've told the principals is that we can't just throw adults at kids, that we need to be very thoughtful about when we add a section and when we hold. So I hear you, and I know Arlington's a good school district. So these are things, you're right, now some things have changed, even since, if I had stayed in the classroom, this would be my 34th year. So even since is a long time ago, but we do have kids with more significant needs that are in regular classes. We also, and these have to be thought about too, we also are held accountable for everybody getting a Regents diploma now, as opposed to when sometimes people would go vocationally because they liked it and they wanted to pursue a career, and there's some really great offerings from BOCES for that, and there have been in the past. They still now have to pass all of the Regents exams. And if they don't, they don't graduate. So we're held, this whole no child left behind, NCLB that they talk about, we are held accountable for every kid that hits our door, and we are held accountable to seeing them all graduate. And our problem that I was explaining in our performance is that we need to do a better job, because if 4 out of 5 kids graduate, that 5th kid, it's very significant that they haven't. And when we look at our students in terms of how well are they graduating, half of our kids are only getting an 80 or above on the English Language Arts exam, which is mandatory, and one math exam where they're getting 75 above. So half of our kids who do graduate, of those 80%, are coming out strong or strong enough, and half of them are coming out borderline. So we know we have to raise the bar all over the place and really focus our efforts.
I wish that you could inspire your teachers to follow your example in taking a voluntary pay cut.
Okay, wake up, Mark, stop dreaming.
Yes.
My question on the Regents thing, there's nothing that could ever change that, where that's required, because there are kids out there that just are not going to be able to meet them. Is the dropout rate more now that that's been in effect? Because you're hitting a wall if you can't pass that test.
What has just come out, like about a week ago, is that the biggest exam that kids are having difficulty with is the global history exam, which is the 9th, 10th grade global history. It's a 2-year sequence, and it's very hard in terms of English language arts and content, because it's global history. I mean, and it goes way back. I mean, it goes back, to like the year 1040, Battle of Hastings and things like that. And they go all the way through. I've tried to read my daughter's text at times, and it was like, oh my goodness, what are they, amazing. And, at least I didn't have to, I grew up during the Vietnam era, I didn't have to study about it. Now they have everything synced. But what they're doing, so what they're doing now is, because they realize that some kids are not getting through this exam, so they are now offering some alternatives that are out there on the table to say if kids, let's say, go to vocational school and they pass the NOCTI test, I think that's like if you're going for cosmetology and you pass the cosmetology state board, then they will waive the global Regents. It's the first time that they've said that. So they're realizing that kids may not all have the same strengths. And they don't.
They don't.
They don't.
You can't make them get them.
I know.
They have a level that they can reach, and vocational is awesome.
Right.
Why, is there less people going to BOCES now because they have to have a region?
No, actually,
BOCES is amazing.
the BOCES program is phenomenal. I think the kids find it motivating for them. I think for some kids, it's their
It's an
lifeline
option.
to stay in
It's an
school, and it gets them career ready. But, so there are beginning to be some options, but the idea of pulling back on the regions is not there from the state. That whole No Child Left Behind put that bar high and said everyone needs to meet this, but they are looking at alternatives. That's as far as they've gotten. This is the first time they're finally discussing alternatives. I want to move us along a little bit here, and the next page talks about how much are we including kids with disabilities in terms of percentage of time in the general ed, and so it's an important thing, but I think it's basically most of our kids are mildly disabled. They're in the mainstream, and it's only kids who are most severely disabled that you can look at this school district where 4.1% of our kids are really educated outside of our district. So we are working to meet the needs of all of our kids within our district. And then on the bottom line here in this grid here, it talks about the percentage identified as being disabled, and our percentage in this district is 17%. That's something that I find very high. It's not typical, and we are now going to be putting response to intervention in place, which we have to do, which is really means getting to kids early and working with them in different ways to see sometimes kids aren't really disabled, it's just that they needed different kinds of support in order to be successful. So we're hoping that as we put this plan in place, we will reduce the referrals. On the next page is, I'm sure here in Olive, you're very familiar with large parcel, okay? So because of the large parcel and because of New York City being a taxpayer to the district, to the towns and to the district, what ends up happening is this is the full value tax rates per thousand, okay, for 10-11, comparing us to other school districts. So while we're higher per kid, and there's no argument about that, the reality is because New York City contributes to the tax base, this ends up being a comparison of the different rates across the region.
Hold on, all these other towns are at 100% valuation? That's not a fair assumption.
Well, it's up to the
Sorry.
towns to figure out how they assess their taxes, but the reality is this is based on full value assessment. This is what we got from the state ed, this is from the Controller's Office, the New York State Controller's Office website. All right, if you have further questions about that, I don't have Victoria McLaren with us this evening, who's the Assistant Superintendent for Business, but I can get you that information, just let me know. All right, next page is our enrollment. We've been talking about decreasing enrollment. This is my third time here in the year and 4 months I've been here in district, and I've been talking about our decreasing enrollment. This is something that people are very aware of. I want you to know we right now have our largest classes in 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grade. And they're slowly being replaced with classes that are around 100 kids per grade level. Sometimes it's 90, sometimes it's 110, sometimes it's 121, but you're not going to see the graduation classes that we've had in the past of 148, we're down to 136, and it's going to dwindle until you see our 8th grade group move up, and you're going to see us stabilize, which is a trend across the state in terms of rural population. With what's projected and what we think is going to happen is we're going to be a district of around 1,400 kids. okay?
Well, how many teachers at that point do you?
Well, let me go, you're gonna take the wind out of my sails, I promise you I'll get to that, okay? So if you turn to the next page, which is page 8, the budget this year is $50,541,000. If we had rolled the budget over, in other words, no cuts, just kind of rolled with everything, we, not saying that we were going there, but the budget would have been, $52,660,000.